Hey everyone, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today for our webinar, Turning Pain Points into Possibilities with Modern ERP that Works Together. My name is Tim Jameson from Solutions+. I'm an account manager here. Welcome to everyone joining us today. Hello again to everyone that I've already had the chance to meet or already work with. We're especially excited about today's session. MYOB Acumatica is the newest offering in the Solutions+ portfolio, and it gives us another really strong option for helping businesses modernize the way they work. Today, I'm going to be joined by a couple of guests. Matt from Solutions+, our head of sales and marketing. He's going to set the scene around how the ERP evaluation lens has changed and also walk us through today's agenda. And then also Gurpreet from MYOB, a senior solutions consultant, who's going to take us through and take a look at MYOB Acumatica and show what a modern ERP can look like in practice. Before we get into the product, though, Matt's going to spend a few minutes looking at why businesses are now thinking beyond features and license costs and looking more closely at things like visibility, control, automation, scalability, and long-term value. With that, I'll hand over to Matt.
Awesome. Thanks very much for the introduction there, Tim. So in terms of the agenda today, we're going to spend a very short time on the introduction, which we're going through now. We're going to talk about a little bit more about where ERP is heading, the signs that you've grown your system, and then pass to Gurpreet for sort of an introduction to MYOB Acumatica, and more importantly, a live presentation. So one thing just to note is that if you do have any questions along the way, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A. The way that we'll do this is we'll collate all those questions and then provide a summarized answer set after the session today. So just before we do jump into the product, I think it's important to call out that the ERP evaluation lens has changed. And so I wanted to spend a few minutes sort of setting the scene around what we're seeing in market. So I think really the biggest shift for us is that most businesses that we speak with are no longer asking, do we need ERP? They usually already have one. It's often been in place for years. And in many cases, it has supported their business well to get them where they are now. But really what we're seeing is that that question has changed. It's now more around, is the platform we have today still the right platform that's going to support us on where the business is going? And so, when we look at the buying process for ERP, historically, it's been very functional. Can it do finance? Can it do inventory? Can it do purchasing? Can it do reporting? All these sorts of things. And although those functional requirements still need to be met, they're often not enough on their own. And so the decision lens sort of needs to be looked at through a longer term lens. Where is the business going over the next 10 to 15 years? How much more complex will it become? Will there be more entities, reporting requirements, automation? Is there going to be more pressure building on finance and operations? And really, I think the question that we want to be able to answer as we go through the evaluation stage is the platform that we're deciding to go with going to give our business room to adapt? Or is it going to become the next constraint in our next path of growth? So I think that matters even more so with the change of pace around AI at the moment. So I think when you're evaluating ERP in 2026, what you're doing is you're not just buying for what the system can do day one, you're actually choosing a platform that will be stitched into the next decade or more. And so there's sort of a little graphic that we like to use as we talk through this. And I'd encourage a lot of businesses to think about this. Sometimes it's even just good to draw it out when you're in the room with, everyone having this discussion around is our current ERP still supporting the business? And the way that we like to frame this up is simply, where are we now? Where have we been? And where are we going? And what are we trying to do? And when we start to frame up around that lens, the next question is then, what is the platform that is going to give us the best chance of getting where we need to be without needing to re-platform in a few years? And so that's certainly the context for today. What we want to do is we want to show you what a modern ERP platform looks like and how businesses are starting to think differently around visibility, control, automation, scalability, and long-term value. I think the key thing for us and what we're hearing in market is that there's a real sentiment around that ERP is no longer a software decision, it's a business platform decision. And so it's very important that we think through that lens as we go through this session today with Gurpreet. So just before I do hand over, I think it's important to call out some of the signs that you are outgrowing your current system. So I've put sort of 5 key areas on the PowerPoint here. But the reality is, most businesses don't wake up and decide that they need a new ERP. It usually starts much smaller than that. It'll be a spreadsheet that gets added somewhere. It could be a manual process. There's workarounds that start to be built. And it starts to show that the system, may not be able to quite support how the business now operates. And so for a lot of businesses, you know, it becomes routine, it feels manageable, but the reality is over time, those workarounds become part of the operating model. So reporting starts to take longer, teams don't fully trust the numbers, and businesses start to rely on people to bridge those gaps between systems. I think certainly from our perspective, when where we sit with our customers, the real warning side is when growth starts adding complexity rather than control. In many cases, I guess, more volume should ideally give you more leverage. But if every new customer, product, location, process creates more manual effort, that's a really critical indicator that the system is starting to constrain the business. And that's usually where the point where, leaders sort of need to step back and ask, is our current system landscape and ERP going to support the next stage of growth, or whether the business has already outgrown it? So I just wanted to sort of share that lens today and a few of those points as you go through the demonstration today. And Tim will sort of round this out after Gurpreet has gone through. So with that, Gurpreet, I'll pass over to yourself, mate.
Thanks, Matt. And a great lens, a great way to look at it in looking for when you're looking for a new platform. Now, for me, what I want to start today with, why MYOB Acumatica? So if you're looking for a new ERP, you're going through, like Matt mentioned, those workarounds that have turned into operational uses, why should you consider MYOB Acumatica as your next platform? Now, simply put, if we talk about Acumatica, they are the fastest growing global ERP platform with award-winning workflows. And if we talk about MYOB, we are local specialists in the ANZ region. And we've got one purpose, and that is to help more and more Australian and New Zealand businesses start, survive, and succeed. Now, if you combine the two strong brands in Acumatica and MYOB Acumatica, what do you get is MYOB Acumatica, a platform that brings Acumatica's modern cloud ERP platform with MYOB's deep industry expertise in the ANZ region. It's a combination of global innovation and local relevance, giving your business a solution that's designed to work around the realities of operating in the region. With MYOB Acumatica, you don't just get a platform, you get everything built within the platform. So think about native payroll and workforce management, local compliance, and award-winning, like I said, from Acumatica's and award-winning proven industry workflows. We've also got an ecosystem of over 150 integrated applications, and all of that is backed and supported by a trusted support network that's been helping businesses across Australia and New Zealand for decades. More importantly, MYOB Acumatica has an intuitive platform that connects your front office and the back office, essentially connecting your operations workflows with finance. So you're not plugging numbers and double handling information. Summarizing all, in short, MYOB Acumatica is designed to fit the way ANZ businesses operate today, giving them room to scalable tomorrow. Now, when we talk about MYOB Acumatica, so while you're looking at considering this as a platform, here's a slide I wanted to talk about quickly, and that is essentially, it paints a picture of where MYOB Acumatica sits in the ANZ region. Now, this was an independent study conducted by iStart on ERP buying guide for the 25-26 year. Now, as you can see on the screen here, we've got almost a quarter of the mid-market businesses across ANZ trust MYOB as their source or as their ERP provider. And of that quarter of the market industry market, we've got over 2,500 businesses that use MYOB Acumatica on a daily basis, and they use it for its intuitive interface that provide them with right insights right at their fingertips. So they end up spending less time finding information and more time making data-backed informed decisions without leaving the platform itself. And this is what we're going to see in the presentation today. So let's jump out of a PowerPoint and actually look at what MYOB Acumatica can offer your business. So if I start with, if I look at MYOB Acumatica, we're a fully cloud-based solution. We've got you can log into MYOB Acumatica as a user. When you log into the platform essentially gives you, greets you with your role-specific information. So you can actually configure the platform to say, I need information that's more relevant to my role. In this scenario, I'm logged in. I can see sales manager's role-specific dashboard. The dashboard provides sales manager with information related to managing things like sales pipeline, managing average deal size, and tracking against how we running quarter on quarter. Right now, coming close to end of quarter two, we're running 29% under what we did in quarter one. So you've got insights that are built in the system, easy to access and easy to visualize those in the platform. If you think about, if you change your hat from a sales manager to a warehouse manager would be more interested in items for fulfillment, orders coming in for fulfillment, purchases to be receipted, that sort of data in inventory that's there. We've got dashboards that can be configured for those roles. And if you think of it, change the lens from a warehouse to a financial controllers, financial AP, AR staff can have their own dashboards. Any role you can think of within a business, we can have a dashboard configured for them. Dashboards, one of the most common ways how our customers use and get information, digest information out of the platform. In addition to all this, MYOB Acumatica also allows you to configure essentially every single entity in your group, which you can access with a drop-down list, provided you've got access to those entities with a single click of a button. The thing you're not looking to do is log out and log back in, unlike some other platforms. You can have multiple entities open in a bigger browser-based solution. You can have multiple entities open in different tabs across different screens as you work through your day. So easy to manage, easy to work. What this really helps with, when you think about your month-end processes, financial consolidation is a breeze. A couple of clicks of a button and you can do that. Now, I mentioned intuitive platform. So if you think about MYOB Acumatica's platform itself, we've got dashboards built in here, pretty pictures, looks nice, looks great, but this is not just there for the looks of it. We've actually got alerts and alarm levels that can be built into the system. So think of a traffic light system. Green's good to go. Yellow look, red stop. You'll see up the top here, I've got no customers in credit hold. That's all good. We are total accounts receivable balance is just under $500,000. Starting to create a worry for the business. So something to look at from a receivables point, but then off that, almost $4.5 million is an overdue balance. That's a big red flag. So you'll see the colors essentially identify it. The way these dashboards are built is you're not looking to read pages and pages of data that exist within the system. You're just looking at the screen and you can go focus on what I need to focus on in terms of what's red, what's yellow, what's green. Now, these dashboards, essentially, you can drill into them as well. So if I wanted to go into that AR overdue balance with a single click of a button, I can go in and have a look at all the list of my customers that have overdue balances within MYOB Acumatica. Now, when I look at this list of customers, I can see I've got over 26 pages of data. I don't have to scroll through. I've got 99 records of data, over 4 pages of data. I don't have to scroll through every single page. Where MYOB Acumatica makes it really user-friendly is when you look at the screen, you're looking at an Excel sort of grid style layout. The functionality within the platform is very much similar. The way you would use Excel to apply filters, you can use those sort of functions within MYOB Acumatica as well. So you're not learning a new way of doing things. MYOB Acumatica molds the operation to your existing knowledge and learning. If you were looking you want to sort in a specific order, you wanted to look at customers over a specific balance, you can always put those filters and have a look through that lens. Let's jump into a specific customer and see how would we actually identify that $100,000 overdue balance on active staffing as a customer. Now, this is where MYOB Acumatica provides the next level of differentiation compared to some of our competitors, and that's what adds the intuitive nature to the platform. So if you think about, I've got a whole lot of invoices. I've got about 13 odd invoices sitting in the system. All these invoices are invoices that are due. We've come from an overdue screen, so we've got all the overdue invoices listed in the screen here. Now, when I'm looking through this screen, think about how would you access. If you're about to call this customer, talk to them about their $100,000 overdue balance. When are they paying? What are you going to capture? That sort of details. You're essentially having to go through open and close and open, close and open, close. You've got 13 odd invoices in the screen on the system. You got to open and close every single one of them. With what MYOB Acumatica brings into the picture is you've got this concept called side panels. Side panels come with the system, and as we go through the session, you'll see how user-friendly these side panels make the platform, how intuitive it makes the data. But then side panels can also be configured. So if you need to add additional bits of information, that can be added in the system as well. And access to the side panels. But what side panel is giving me is I don't have to open, close, and lose my chain of thought of when I'm talking to a customer. Simply toggle from one invoice to the other and jump from one invoice to the other, and you'll see the details here on the right hand side continue to change, and you can now have that conversation with the customer about that specific invoice. This is how old overdue it is and where it is, and you can even capture payments and access that information right there on the screen if you wanted to. So very intuitive platform.
And this is great, Gurpreet, when we're sort of jumping in and we're having a look as an internal user. But let's say that a customer called up and said, hey, Matt, I've got a problem with a particular invoice. How easy is it and how quickly can I access that information in Acumatica?
Good question. So how easily can you find information within MYOB Acumatica? So for customers, so think about that scenario like Matt, you mentioned, and a customer's called up, I've got a question about an invoice. So a couple of different ways you can do it. You can always go the longer route where you can actually go into receivables and then blah, blah, blah. But where it's really user-friendly and intuitive is we've got the search box at the top. That is a global search within the platform. Now, if a customer calls me, I'm looking at analyzing data for another customer. I don't want to leave this screen. I want to open a new tab. I can do that being a browser-based solution. Any browser-based solution can do that. But if a customer calls me, they've got a question about a specific invoice. I ask them for the invoice number, hit enter, and I can then search for that invoice number directly from that screen. I'm not having to go through multiple clicks, multiple screens to land to that customer's invoice. That search function itself doesn't only allow you to search for transaction documents. You can search for a customer name, supplier, anything you want from a transaction perspective, you can search across it. You've also got the capability to search across menu items. So think about that learning journey when you transition from your current ERP platform into MYOB Acumatica, or any platform. You've got to learn something. Where would I find certain menu items? All you're doing is searching. If you know what you're looking for, you can find that in the system. Where MYOB Acumatica becomes even more user-friendly is we've got searching capabilities spanning across our help topics and different files that can be attached in the system. Think about help topics. As you go through an implementation of the platform, you can actually change within MYOB Acumatica. While we give you help pages with workflows on how you perform certain tasks, you can actually change those wordings, those processes. You can attach documents in there to say, this is what our specific workflows are. So when someone new starts in the business, you're not looking at having someone sit there and train them one-to-one. Everything is cataloged. Everything is put into the help for your searching, for relevant to your business's workflows. That's how flexible the platform is. But going back to that invoice, if I click on that invoice, I can open that invoice directly on the screen, or right click and open in a new tab, completely up to me. So I've got a call from a customer, let's say David. David's asking about, I got this invoice. We ordered other things as well. They were not on the invoice. What happened there? So how easy would it be to find that information? Now, within MYOB Acumatica, I showed you side panels, shows you connected information, but connected information doesn't always have to be accessed through side panels. Right on that invoice, I can see this is a sales order. I can actually access the sales order directly from the same screen. On that screen, I can actually look at what items were on the sales order. So here's everything that was on the sales order. I can see what items were shipped, how many quantities were shipped, and what wasn't shipped. Now think about that process today. If you are in the finance team and you get a phone call from a customer asking that question, how often would you put the customer on hold, send an email or send a Teams message or send a message to someone, or even stand up and yell, depending on the size of your office, hey, what happened to that order? Happens all the time, right? With MYOB Acumatica, you don't have to put the customer on hold. You've got access to the information. You're providing customer service with fewer handoffs, fewer interruptions to your customers' operations. Now, think about one other thing, Matt, there is essentially think about if the customer then asked, what's happening with the banking, when am I going to get it? We can see that we didn't have that stock available there, But at the same time, I've got the ability directly from that invoice. I've been able to access the sales order. I can go into the purchase order and see, okay, we were expecting that item on Friday. So I can inform that customer straight away that this is item coming in to our warehouse this Friday. You'll have it on Monday, Tuesday, depending on their shipping terms and timelines for you. So your customers are well informed and you're building a good customer experience.
And so that, we've sort of talked about the proactive approach of us going in as a user and finding that. We've talked about a customer coming in, but I think the more that we sort of see this thought pattern shift in the market from system of record to system of action, how can we actually stop this from happening in the future? How can we use MYOB Acumatica to be able to avoid things like this happening in the future?
Good question. So think about if you're a wholesale distributor, MYOB Acumatica, you're not looking to add in a WMS solution as a bolt onto the platform. MYOB Acumatica has got an inventory management and WMS solution built within the platform. So in David's scenario here, we've got nothing that was shipped out. So why didn't we ship out? Why didn't we have the stock in? We want to eliminate those sort of scenarios. How can we do that in the system is, let's go into that new stock item itself and have a look through it. So here's the stock item that I'm looking through within MYOB Acumatica. I can see the details on that stock item. There's a lot of details that we can capture it from an item perspective. But a couple of things I want to highlight here is from an item perspective, we can capture things like what's the sales price on the item, what kind of minimum markups we want, what are the standard markups are. So these sort of information then comes in handy when your sales team are capturing orders, especially if you've got some cowboys in your sales teams that just punch in and discount things out. You can actually build workflows, approval workflows to say if you're going under the minimum markup required, go and seek an approval. You can't just do that. So that sort of thing can be built within the system. Now, talking about pricing, it's not just a single price. With MYOB Acumatica, you get a full price management. Again, I'm going to use that side panel. So that's one of my favorite ways to find things in the system. And you can do side as pricing for customers and also for suppliers and a whole lot of other information inside panels. But if you think about pricing side of things, so we've got $269 as a base price of that product. It goes in all the time. We can also put in things like break quantity. So if you buy more than 20, your base price goes to $240. If you are a specific customer, we can give you specific pricing. Or if you're a customer in a group, so you're a distributor or a stockist or a trade customer, you get specific pricing. And when you go over a certain threshold, you get specific pricing. And you can even put things like expiry dates, mark them as promotions and things like that. With MYOB Acumatica, we've also got native connectors to online sales platforms like Shopify, BigCommerce, and we can connect to a whole lot of other online stores as well. And what that means is all this information that you're capturing from a sales perspective is available for customers to purchase in that space. But that's the pricing side of things. The question you had, Matt, was essentially what would happen or what can we do within the system to actually prevent this from happening, prevent going out of stock. So within MYOB Acumatica, we've got inventory planning module. Now, inventory planning capability, actually, that's part of our inventory module. So in inventory planning, we can actually specify things like what our safety stock is, what our reorder points, what minimum maximum quantities, that sort of information. That information can also be configured by each warehouse. So if you've got multiple warehouses, you can actually configure that for each warehouse. If one of the warehouses in this scenario, the service warehouse, receives stock from the main warehouse, you can actually configure those sort of details as well. And what you can also configure is you can have multiple suppliers set up against multiple vendors set up against a stock item, with each of these items having their own lead times configured in the system. So all of that can be configured within the system. Now, that's just data within the platform. With that data in the system, what MYOB Acumatica can actually do is, if I go back to my platform, what MYOB Acumatica can actually do is overnight we've got a routine that can run in the background to say, this is your current stock level across every single stock item in the database. These are your minimum and maximum quantities. These are your safety points. This is what you've all this information you've got. MYOB Acumatica can also be then used to build a forecast of the historical sales data. So we've sold X quantities of these cameras, or we plan to sell 50 of these cameras every through our distributed channel, or through the entire channel. We can actually specify that information in there. Take all that data, MYOB Acumatica can process it and display it an easy to read screen like this, where we can now see every single item that we need to purchase. It tells you when do we need to have it in stock, when do we need to put in a purchase order. So if I look through that scenario of the cameras that we were looking at, I need to have I should have ordered the cameras for the June sales in May. It takes into account, based on the supplier, the lead times and all those details. And if you wanted to really see how is the system coming across, how is MYOB Acumatica coming across that recommendation, you've got visibility on that to access through the side panel again, so we can see what the transfer times are, what the lead times are, what our reorder points are, what our current quantity on hand is, and off the back of that, what the recommendations are. You can also see there's a requirement plan built off the back of a forecast, and you can access those documents from the system as well. So within MYOB Acumatica, it's easy to find what you need to purchase. The recommendations are built in for you. Now, how would you use this screen? Simple. So I mentioned before, you've got the ability to click apply filter. So you can say, show me anything that has a date less than end of the week. I need to place all those purchase orders in. Simple as that. Anything that is less than, let's go weekend, apply. And then here's a list of everything that I should have purchased. Simply tick all, hit the button for purchase. You've got the vendors set up against it. Platform will go and create the purchase orders for you. Now, when we talk about creating the purchase order, so here's the purchase order that we had created for David. Here's an example of that purchase order. So everything that was created. I mentioned side panels are always available for you to access the information, but side panels are not the only piece. You can access information from within the system as well. With one of the things that comes with MYOB Acumatica is you're not leaving the current screen when you are working within the platform. If there is connected information, you can access that from the same screen. So on that purchase order, I can actually see the receipt documents on that purchase order. I can actually see the supplier has sent us some previous invoices. So if you've got shipments coming in drips and drops, you can actually have multiple purchase receipts, multiple invoices from the suppliers captured in there. If I open that specific receipt document from that our warehouse team received when the stock was delivered to our warehouse, we can actually see all the details in there. What we can also do, and this is something that we see a lot of our customers struggle with, is we've got natively capabilities to manage landed costs in the system. So, we bought this stock from an overseas supplier. We've got customs, we've got shipping costs, we've got all these additional costs that needs to be added into the cost of the product, so we can get true margin analysis on the stock item itself. We've got that capability in the system as well. So here's a landed cost item that I've got it configured. I've got it captured by cost. You can do it by volume. You can do it by quantities. You can do it by anything you want. And if you've got dealers overseas that are, merging multiple purchase orders from multiple suppliers into one consignment, into one container, you can actually have that $5,000 of cost split across multiple purchase orders, purchase receipts as well. So you don't have to manually create those documents one by one as you go through the system. So we can do it all. We can plan for the inventory. We can capture the cost and create purchase orders all off the back of that piece there.
Unreal. And I think, it's good to highlight that process, because for both sort of, people in market that are on smaller ERPs, this is likely all living in Excel, where they're not handling inventory at all. But even for some prospects we're speaking to that are in larger systems, particularly when it comes into demand and supply planning or forecasting, they're also using outside of the system tools. So to be able to see that we can do that end-to-end flow, right from when there's an issue with the customer to figuring out if our reorder quantities are off, all the way through to, there's 23 different documents that need to be proportioned across our landed cost, is awesome that we're all staying within the one platform. I think, look, you've covered that question off well there. Naturally, I have to ask, that's great that we can go in and see all of that information. But given that AI is a hot topic and it's on everyone's mind at the moment, I'd love to know what MYOB Acumatica is doing in the AI space. Yeah, as you go through.
Yes, the buzzword of the decade, the AI. So absolutely. And so at MYOB, we're investing a lot into AI as well. There are features within the platform that exist today, and there are features that have been coming through every update we're releasing as well. From MYOB's perspective, we're taking AI first architecture approach to our platform. And our focus is that we want to build the AI or embed the AI into the platform with practical outcomes for our customers that are using MYOB Acumatica. We don't just want the AI for the sake of having AI into the platform. So essentially, and then the way we're doing that essentially is we're looking to build an AI that reduces effort, support decision making. It creates value in everyday workflow. So we've got 3 different pillars that we kind of follow on that line. So the very first one is assistance, or the assist feature. So the idea behind assist is it is there to help you get information faster, find information more easily, so you don't have to jump from one screen to the other. So that example of David calling us, it could be easily think of like a chat GPT sort of scenario. If there's an assistant coming into MYOB Acumatica in the next release, which is about 2-3 months away. What that would allow the support of the finance person to do is essentially ask that question. David's got this invoice. Here's the invoice number. Can you please tell me they didn't receive some stock items? Why didn't they receive it? And when are we actually going to get it into the system? So AI can just a conversation with the system. You can ask that question. Easy to do in the system. So that's one example. The next piece we've got is that automation piece. So this is one that's an interesting one. Again, another piece that's coming through in the next release, which is the September release. The idea behind this pillar is it's about taking on more and more work by AI on behalf of a customer, while we leave the people in control. So the platform just does the task for you. And the way we do that is we can build agents. We'll be able to build agents within our platform. So what does an agent actually mean? So with MYOB Acumatica, all our data is hosted in Australia and New Zealand. So you get the data protection in the ANZ region. And AWS then have their partnership with Anthropic. So Anthropic's got Claude as their AI language learning model. So with MYOB Acumatica, you get access to Claude by default as an option, as a language learning model of choice. But the beauty of with MYOB Acumatica is we understand that customers may already have a language learning model that they're subscribed to. It could be Copilot, OpenAI, anything that you currently subscribe to. You've also got the capability to tap in and configure that model into MYOB Acumatica. You don't have to use the Claude model that we provide. So you've got full flexibility on that. The agent can be anything you can think of. You can actually build it to be an agent to perform a task. An example, if I was to talk about it. So here's a product within MYOB Acumatica. I've got this product, a Dyson vacuum cleaner. So here's an electrical or good white good supplier that a distributor that supplies these products to their customers. Now, when we look at this product, what we can do in the system is we can actually configure. We've seen how we can configure elements in the system. So things like here's the minimum markups, here's the markups, this is what the price is in the system. Now think about how often you get a phone call from a customer asking, "Hey, can you do a better deal?" So with MYOB Acumatica, I've got an agent built in the system where we've defined 4 specific major retailers selling this product, and we want to get a price. What is it that these retailers are selling this at? So we've got click on that button, market scan for best price. This is a custom AI agent built in, and it goes away, analyzes that data, looks up all the information. Here's your 4 different suppliers. This is what they're selling it at. It also gives you a link to their website. What it also does is it does a price analysis. It gives you, this is the highest price, lowest price, average price. Even does a recommendation that you're selling at $450. You're the cheapest right now, and you're selling it at a margin of 20%. So think about those margins, 10-15% that we were targeting. We are above our margin today. gives you some risk and confidence commentary around that. So that task where someone would have to manually go in, look through different people's, different competitors' websites, put the data in Excel, analyze it, put formulas, all that sort of stuff. Couple of clicks about 15 seconds, and MYOB Acumatica's AI Studio agent can deliver that task for you. So that's the two. Then the third one that we've got is the advisor, which is the pillar that allows you to which is the pillar that actually exists within the system today. Now, the purpose of this one is to essentially reduce effort by handling repeatable tasks, speeding up processes, and cutting human errors as we go through. So think about a scenario where, from a finance perspective, today, what we see in a lot of customers is you get a finance team, receives a supplier invoice. That supplier invoice comes in and they've got to punch in the data. They've got to punch in 1, 2, 3, a whole lot of information in there. Now, that's something we've got an OCR capability within our platform where we can actually get the system to scan the document. So as soon as the document hits the email, MYOB Acumatica imports it, scans it, recognizes it, it's ready to go. The AP team doesn't have to manually create those. They click a button and the supplier bill is created. With MYOB Acumatica, like I mentioned before, we can build approval workflows in the platform as well. So you can have an approval workflow built into the supplier bill as well. Those sort of pieces are standard, very generic, very standard piece of functionality that's available. Where our AI piece then comes in is we can actually build inquiries within MYOB Acumatica. Inquiry is another format of reporting within the platform. So here's an inquiry screen that I've got that essentially gives me a list of every single AP bill document line. It's not a document, it's a line item in that bill. The AI model in this scenario has been configured to look at the line amount, the unit price line amount per line over a period of last 12 months. So now we've got fluctuations. So when fluctuations occur, something you usually buy for $10, you've got $100 or $1,000 invoice. Was it someone's mistake by fat fingers, or was it a supplier bill that was actually intercepted in an email format coming in and is a fraudulent invoice? Now, not every anomaly is a fraudulent transaction, but it's easy for the finance team to, rather than going through and investigating everything, you can actually see color coded. I've got it highlighted here. There's a medium level of severity across that line. We need to get the finance team to investigate that. This information, based on the severity filters, can also be displayed on the dashboard, so someone doesn't have to come on the screen and identify and manually action this task. Here's a list of every single medium and significant item severity identified over the last 12 months in the system. So this gives your finance teams just an option to go look at, do we need to look at something, or is everything in line with what we usually purchase at? So that's essentially where our AI vision is going to.
That's unreal. And I mean, looking at even the market analysis, and I think I saw a generate description button there as well. I think it even just broadens the lens at which that covers. I can think of a field sales team, particularly in wholesale distribution, having that information about best price, market price, descriptions, all that sort of thing can obviously have a lot of downstream impacts. And then even from this side, from a compliance and legal aspect. So what I'm seeing is that it really is prompting those actions so that we can better serve our customers. So I think that's very exciting. And I'm sure it's only the start of that journey for you guys.
Absolutely.
I think, switching gears, we've talked a lot about sort of wholesale distribution or inventory-led sort of situations. Let's say within this business, we decide to expand and we now go for more project focus. So yes, we might still be supplying these goods, but we might need to be managing that through a project life cycle. How does MYOB Acumatica sort of work within that space?
Good question. So think about this very customer supplies electronic goods today, but tomorrow they turn into acquiring a business that also installs these in various variety of construction businesses. So with MYOB Acumatica, the growth, the scalability is all there within the system. So we can definitely create projects within MYOB Acumatica and manage those transactions from a project perspective. One of the big differences, you're not looking to create, you're not looking to re-implement the whole platform. It's just switching a module on and away you go. So cost management is easy to scale as well, and you already know the platform that you're building the scale into. I mentioned side panels. You'll see again side panels come in. Here's an example of a project where we've got the ability to build in, if you've got servicing or you want to book in appointments to perform certain tasks on that project as well, those can be configured in the system as well. So all that's available. But if we look at that project itself, so there's an electrical project that is to install the electrical network in a commercial building being built by a customer. So within MYOB Acumatica, you can definitely quote a project. So you can do quotations within MYOB Acumatica from a sales or from a project perspective, either or. And then what you can do is you can actually create those projects with different tasks of what you're actually going to be delivering in this project. Where things become simpler with MYOB Acumatica is all of this sort of setup. It doesn't have to be really complex. You can actually create templates, and these templates will then define what goes into that task. Creating a new project could be as simple as click a button, say this is a template to use, and it populates most of what you do on a regular basis. You can still have the ability to edit these items out, say what do you need the task to be, and so on. One of the things when MYOB Acumatica gives you the most amount of flexibility is how do you build these projects out? So in this scenario, you'll see every single billing rule I've got configured here is a fixed price billing. Most construction sort of projects run into that milestone billing, complete 10% of this, 20% of that with retention management in the system. That's what it's configured to. But we do get customers using different other styles of billing. Things like, we've spent X dollars of cost. We want to add a margin on it and charge back to the customer. So cost plus or, time and material style billing, we can build those rules. And the beauty of the platform is the billing rule is not, can be configured on a project, but you can also have the flexibility to configure the billing rule on a task. So a task could be milestone billing and another task could be a time and material or cost plus billing. That's the flexibility within the system. With that project, what you get to see within that project is everything related to that project. So from a project manager's perspective, everything related to that project is easily accessible for them on the screen here. So if I want to look at my revenue, I can access that directly from there. If I want to look at my costs, I can access those directly from here. And at any point in time, at any point in time, if I wanted to see my profitability, I've got that visible through the project completely based on what we've built so far, what are our costs so far, what's the margin and what's the margin percentage. That's always available. If I look through here on my cost budgets, so you'll see we've got the cost budget kind of linked back to the tasks that we were delivering. We've got the budgets broken down into what our plant and equipment hire costs are, what our labor costs are, material costs, project burden costs and supporting that project, travel expenses, subcontractor costs. You can configure budgets across anything you want in the system. Now, I've only got amounts, but you can do a quantities and unit price and amount, any sort of configuration you want in the platform. What MYOB Acumatica also support is if you started the project with no budget, but then there were variations, you can easily identify when the variations were built in, so that way you've got the visibility on what your revised budget amounts are. We can also issue purchase orders or subcontracts out of the project as well, which gives you the committed amount. So this is where anything that you're expecting to receive the invoice in the system, and that is a committed amount on the system, and then you can then see which purchase orders have we received the invoice. So there's nothing open that's already been built in. So this is the actual plus committed balance versus which ones we've actually got invoices yet to come in. Where this really helps our customers is you've got a budget in this scenario of $30,000 We've got outstanding invoices to come in of 9,600, and we've already spent 22.5. So essentially, we are running over budget on that specific task, and even that specific task. So you can easily, from a project manager's perspective, you can manage those sort of scenarios easier. We can build alerts into the system where when you get closer and closer to the budget, it can generate notifications, alerts for the project managers to investigate as well. Now that's how you would access the transactions. But like I said, accessing information related to that project, you don't have to leave the screen. Here's a vision of a mini P&L balance, P&L report on that project, broken down by each of those account groups for the project. The commitments, the purchase orders we created, the invoices we created, any sort of change orders, change requests, or even activities, things like emails you send in and out of the project. You can all use all of that. Now, I mentioned that AI assistant from a distribution perspective. Think about one of the things we get a lot from our customers is you can actually have there's a requirement to send a summary, executive summary of what's happened in a month to a customer. You could have an AI agent built in where click of a button, it analyzes every single activity, change order, request for information, anything you think of that's happened in that month, creates a nice looking summary document, click of a button, and you can have that sent to your customers, or even we can automate it using capabilities in the system. So as a platform, we can do a whole lot with an intuitive layer of access, a user interface access, with information at your fingertips and ability to grow when you need.
There's just so much to unpack there. And I mean, it seems like a small thing to mention, but even just looking at the change orders and change request functionality being built into the system, I know speaking with people in market, that's often a challenge for them is how do you audit those change orders? How do you track them? How do you manage them? But I guess it really does also build the bridge between people that are in finance that are used to using systems like ERP systems versus project managers or others outside of the business that can actually leverage this functionality to again manage their projects more tightly, get the information that they need straight away. I probably just have one last question for you, Gurpreet, on the project side of things is, we've talked about wholesale distribution, we've talked about projects now. What about, service-based businesses? What if it was an architecture firm or something like that? Would these same principles apply?
Absolutely. Let's did have another project I was working on. Here's an example of that project, right? You'll see the difference essentially here is just the different tasks that you do. You'd have budgets and the costing side of things are exactly the same. The difference again would be you're not using materials, you're now using more labor, subcontracting, consulting, bit of admin work. Costing side of things fully configurable to what you require for it to be. The principles around how are your profitability going, what kind of invoices you issued out, what's your change orders, everything applies through and through the system.
So cool. Look, it's a lot to take in, but there's just so much value here in seeing all of the different ways that we can access the information. I think that's the key. You've shown that across all of these processes, everything is there in the screen rather than jumping all over the place or, opening 25 different tabs. So look, I think that's a really, really helpful overview. I don't know if there's anything more, Gurpreet, or if we're happy to pass back over to Tim.
No, I think I've got everything covered here, and you summarised that well. So yeah, Tim, over to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. That was great. I think from my perspective, kind of to wrap it up, sort of boil it down to 3 key points, I guess. The first, operational complexity can become a barrier to growth. I think as businesses are growing, you get more people, more transactions, all good things, but more reporting requirements and more manual work that starts to slow things down. And those systems that used to work really well actually become harder to manage, and teams start to spend more time chasing information rather than acting on it. Which sort of leads into the second point, that better visibility helps make teams faster and helps them make more informed decisions. When finance and ops and inventory and reporting are all connected, and as Matt sort of mentioned, all connected without having to open up 1,000 screens, it becomes a lot easier to see what's happening across the businesses, less surprises, faster decisions, and more confidence in your numbers as well. I think the third one, technology delivers the most when it aligns with how the business operates. ERP isn't really about replacing the software. I think that the dirty secret is it's kind of not about the software at all. It's about choosing a platform that's supporting your processes, your people, and where your business is heading to next. If you want to learn more, if you want to go deeper and have a look at what this looks like within your environment, we're happy to book a one-on-one discovery session. Please feel free to give me a call or flick me an email. I would love to chat through your current challenges and goals and how your current systems support those and whether there's another one that might help that support that as well. Thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate your time. Cheers.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. See you later.
Thank you.